I really believe that fate, or whatever you want to call it, brought us together.
More secrets are revealed as Stella gets used to living cancer-free. Let's break down episode 2 of Life Sentence right here on What Happened. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another Life Sentence recap. Episode 2 is once again full of a ton of Abbott family fighting, and secrets come out when Wes is in danger of being deported, so let's just dive right in. Now that Stella is cured, she's pretty much blaming herself for all her family's problems, so she's trying to make it up to them, which includes encouraging Lizzie to write and Aiden to man up for getting Marlene pregnant. For Aiden, Stella keeps trying to encourage him to get his life together, but he just continues to avoid Marlene and slack off. Aiden eventually tells Stella he's going to get his shiz together, but then he hooks up with another married woman at the house. Paul continues to be disappointed in Aiden while Stella decides that she is done defending him. You can also see that how much Paul loves having Diego around really bugs Aiden. It seems like Diego is the son that Paul wished he really had. When Aiden and Paul are eating peppers and chocolate for dinner, Aiden reveals all he ever wanted from Paul was for Paul to give him the time of day every now and then growing up. Instead, Aiden felt invisible. He just wanted Paul to say, he believed in him and put a hand on his shoulder every now and then. Paul just says that he did the best he could, but it's like, really, Paul? Really? After the blow up at the family dinner, Ida digs up the family's old cat, who they reveal didn't run away but died of cancer. Aiden tells Stella that he loved that cat and took great care of him when he was sick. He and Stella end up making up, and she tells him that he'll be a good father, and Aiden then gets a hand on his shoulder and the I believe in you type thing that he has been craving from Paul. So the next day, Aiden decides to take a baby step into getting his life together. He goes to talk to Marlene and says that he's all in, but he's hesitant when she says that she wants to tell her husband everything. For Lizzie, she's having writer's block, and it seems like she's not as happy in her marriage as she tries to make it seem. She still has a lot of regrets and resents her kid, and often gets mad at Diego for asking silly questions, and sometimes she wishes that she could have that hot guy in her Pilates class. At the end of the episode, Stella ends up getting her a spot in a writer's retreat. As for Paul and Ida, they continue to fight over the selling of the house. When someone wants to buy the house with all the furniture in it, Paul's not ready to let go of it. When Stella thinks Paul's out of the room, she tells Diego about all the good memories in the house, but Paul overhears and decides to rip up the offer, which just sets Ida off. Paul refuses to reconsider and says that if they're going to sell the house, they should take it slow and maybe rent it out first. Ida's not happy with this plan and takes a sledgehammer to the wall with the kid's height chart on it. Stella's then forced to choose sides between the two, and she decides to go with Paul. This causes even more tension until it all blows up at the family dinner when Ida learns that Aiden got someone pregnant and that Stella could be moving to London if Wes gets deported. Basically, she has no idea what's going on with her family, so Stella calls her out for only caring about herself and not caring about anyone else's lives. Ida is so mad by now that she goes out into the backyard and continues to dig a hole which she says is her grave. Ida eventually, though, tells everyone the truth. She wants to get rid of this house because while it has tons of good memories for everyone else, for her it's the place where all the bad things in her life happen, like Stella getting cancer and her marriage falling apart. She just wants to let go of all of it. The family finally understands where she's coming from, and then uncovering the cat's grave eases the tension. Paul decides that they should take the offer and sell the house. They rebury the cat and finish up the family dinner, which goes a lot better this time. Now for the Stella Wes drama. They're still getting to know each other, but they'll have to learn everything a lot faster because Agent Stern from Immigration Services shows up to investigate the legitimacy of their marriage. Turns out the marriage certificate was filed after Wes's visa expired, which set off a ton of red flags. Stella admits to filing it late, but now they're going to have to do an interview to validate their marriage, much like the proposal. Stella still thinks her whole life is like one of those big romance movies and everything is going to be perfect. She keeps putting her family before Wes, which just continues to frustrate him. She also hesitates when he asks if she'd be willing to move to London if everything doesn't get sorted out. The two of them study facts about each other, but eventually Stella tries to use her cancer story and how she and Wes were each other's first loves to get Agent Stern to overlook everything and fix it, but it doesn't work. Agent Stern reveals that maybe Stella wasn't Wes's first love because he once lived with someone named Pippa in a one-bedroom flat for 2 years. Wes fesses up and says he did love Pippa, but he said he'd never been in love because he was in love with Stella and she was dying and he wanted to be the perfect man in her movie. They continue to have their tiffs while also learning more about each other, but in their interview they do get a bunch of questions wrong. Eventually, it turns into a scene that kind of reminds me of Win a Date with Tad Hamilton when Topher Grace's character talks about all of Kate Bosworth's different smiles. Stella just starts talking about how she knows all of Wes's little idiosyncrasies, like what makes his nose crinkle and other things that you just have to learn from actually knowing someone in a way that you can't study for. For Wes, he answers Agent Stern's question of what kind of person would marry a dying girl. He explains how he never knew how to live for today until he fell in love with Stella, who had to live, of course, like every day was her last. He fell in love with her, and loving her makes him madder, and they're meant to be, and they deserve a chance to prove that to each other and to the world. And yes, Wes still sounds like he's the perfect guy from a romance movie, at least for now. Agent Stern buys all of this, and Wes gets to stay, and when they return home, Stella does tell Wes that she would have gone to London with him. Thus ends the main events of this week's episode. I'm honestly still a little iffy on my feelings for the show as a whole, but I will continue to give it a chance for now. I do like Stella and Wes, and I do like Diego, but poor Diego's just always caught in the middle of all the family drama, and he really hasn't been given enough to do to make us care about him yet, but hopefully we learn more about him. Now, the rest of the family members, for me, are a little too overacted. It makes the show feel cartoony or like a soap opera, so hopefully, as the season progresses, they kind of fall into their groove. For now, though, let's take a look at the promo for the next episode.
There's something wrong with Dad.
You gonna put on clothes today?
Are you?
He's clearly lonely. Go do something fun, like a father-son thing.
Dad, I'm taking you out tonight. Not to brag, but I have an almost 100% success rate with women.
That is the exact definition of bragging. Stella?
Daddy.
Hands off, lady. He's my daddy tonight.
I didn't expect that.
Alright, y'all, it is that time to let your voices be heard, and hit the comments down below to let me know your thoughts on this show as a whole and the episode in the comments. Do you think that Wes is hiding any other big secrets from Stella? Will Pippa maybe pop up in the future to stir up some trouble? And what do you want to see from the other members of the family? Let me know, then you can click right over here to see this week's Riverdale recap. If you like what you see, feel free to hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and come back here later, because my name's Lisa and I am always sitting here rambling about TV and movies and stuff. See ya!